Call the September 14th council meeting to order. Chief Huntley, would you give the invocation, please?
Yes, Your Honor. Dear Heavenly Father, we just thank you for today, Lord. We thank you for everyone that's gathered here tonight, Lord. We just ask you that anyone that has loved ones, friends, or family that are struggling this evening, Lord, we just ask that you watch over them, comfort them, Lord. We ask that you watch over those that are watching over us every single day and night. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Chief Hawkins, would you lead us in the pledge?
Yes, Your Honor. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Just a quick reminder to the council members, please remember to speak into your microphones. We are recording this. The clerk will call the roll.
Inzer. Present. Taylor. Blankenship.
Present.
Armstrong.
Present.
Blair.
Present.
Techmaster.
Present.
Hardesty.
Here.
Snow.
Here.
Eliff.
Here.
Causey.
We'll move on to reading and consideration of minutes of the previous meeting. Mr. Allen.
Your Honor, I move that we approve the minutes of the August 22nd, 2023 council meeting.
Second.
Have a motion and a second to approve the minutes as written. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We'll move on to public comments. Anyone wishing to address the council, please step to the podium, state your name and address. You will be limited to 5 minutes unless otherwise specified.
Good evening, city officers. My name is Bill Putnam. I live at 624 Bel Air, and I'm here to make a few comments tonight. Too many, perhaps. I went and visited with the mayor tonight at 4:30 and met with him and told him what I'm going to say tonight. Danny and I go back a long way, and I'm going to say some things tonight that are critical of him, and it hurts me to do so. But they need to be said. And I may run over my 5 minutes. One of my favorite movie lines of all time was Strother Martin to Paul Newman in Cool Hand Luke. What we have here is failure to communicate. I see most of you have heard that line before. The mayor and the city attorney are both on record discussing miscommunications and misunderstandings regarding the CWNEP affair. Miscommunications mislead and confuse your constituents and need to be corrected as soon as possible. Now, I'm not here to speak about the CWNEP board debacle, except to say that the council saying that the CWNEP board violated ordinances or, quote, must take training regarding the Sunshine Law, unquote, is the pot calling the kettle black. Now, I'm not accusing current council members. Nowhere in charter or code does it say that you all should be familiar with all the ordinances. Mayor Reif, this falls at your doorstep. Charter section 4.12 states, quote, the mayor shall be active and vigilant in enforcing all laws and ordinances of the city, unquote. Now, I've literally spent hours studying council and committee minutes online, and I believe that Chief Dagnan was hired illegally as assistant city administrator and as city administrator. First mention I saw of this was in the Insurance and Claims Committee meeting April the 13th of 21, when Mr. Short stated that a job description for assistant city administrator was being developed. 2 weeks later in the same committee, there was more discussion with Mr. Short indicating an ordinance would need to be approved by the council to create the new position of assistant city administrator. Mr. Armstrong discussed a temporary promotion as described in the Personnel Policy Manual as an option, and Mayor Rife said more time was needed to decide whether it would be temporary or permanent. On May the 11th, in the same committee, Rife appointed a committee of Otero, Rife, Short, and Dagnan to develop a job description. In that same minutes, it says that Mayor is considering the appointment of Dagnan to the position, but he puts him on the committee to develop the job description. Huge conflict of interest. On June the 8th, again in the Insurance and Claims Committee, Rife explained the job description was basically identical to the city administrator position. With minor tweaking, the job description was approved and forwarded to the council with an effective date of July 1, 2021. No copy of the job description was attached to the minutes. The same evening, the council met and a motion was made to approve the job description effective July 1. There was no mention in that motion of whether or not it was temporary. Again, the job description was not attached to the minutes, so there was no opportunity for citizens to review or comment on the action. 2 weeks later, the mayor appoints Dagnan in a temporary appointment until December 31st of 21, thereby bypassing Charter Section 4.11, which requires an ordinance to create the position and would allow public discussion. Now, you all are familiar with City Code Section 244, which outlines how ordinances are passed. And as you know, 2 readings are required at 2 separate council meetings unless it is deemed an emergency ordinance, which requires unanimous consent to move to second reading. And this could be used to slip something by with a lower chance of it being known by the public because it's only addressed at 1 meeting. Now, I examined all the council minutes subsequent to June 22nd when Dagnan was appointed, and there is no mention of an ordinance to authorize the position of Assistant City Administrator and no record that he was reappointed after the temporary appointment expired December the 31st. On July the 13th of this year, the mayor posted on city website a page in defense of the city administrator. Quote, beginning January 2022, the council approved his hiring as Assistant City Administrator without requiring him to locate at the pay scale outlined in the city salary study, with all with the written understanding that this position would transition to city administrator in the event that position became available. His hiring as Assistant City Administrator was unanimously approved by the council, unquote. There are no minutes from December the 21st to April 22 that reports this action. There is no mention of it being a temporary position. Therefore, it's a violation of Charter Section 4.11 because the office was not authorized by ordinance. In fact, there is no mention that a closed session was held to discuss personnel. Therefore, this is a violation of the Sunshine Law. So it's my contention that he served illegally as Assistant City Administrator from January 1 of 22 until April of the 1st. Also, the mayor's July 13th post indicates a closed session was held 4/1/22 for hiring, firing, etc., and states that Short's resignation was accepted and Dagnan was hired as city administrator. So first, where are these minutes? Missouri Sunshine Law 610.021 states, quote, any vote on a final decision regarding personnel when made by a public governmental body shall be made available with a record of how each member voted to the public within 72 hours of the close of the meeting where such action occurs. That never happened. Second, City Code Section 2-157 regarding the appointment of a city administrator states that a committee recommending appointment to the council shall consist of the mayor and 2 council members appointed by the mayor and approved by the council. This was not done. Third, Code Section 2-158 repeats the qualifications that the council established by ordinance for the position, and I understand that Those may be changed by the council, so you have the authority to change those qualifications, but to do so without public discussion is wrong and speaks of having something to hide. What is going on here? Fourth, Charter Section 5.3. The city administrator may, quote, may reside outside the city only with the approval of the city council. There is no record of that action ever having been taken. If it was done in closed session, why are you hiding from the citizens? This constitutes a violation of the Sunshine Law. Now, most folks don't even know that the city administrator lives outside of town. So we have the mayor who lives in town and works out of town, and the city administrator who lives out of town and works in town, and neither are noticeably active in civic affairs. How can they possibly have a pulse on what the citizens are thinking? Fifth, Charter Section 5.4, compensation of the city administrator. Quote, shall receive a salary as set by ordinance, unquote. Obviously, this is there, so there will be 2 public readings and the citizens will have an opportunity to comment. This was not done, in violation of revised statutes Missouri 77.044. 6, Charter Section 4.11, giving the mayor power to appoint officers authorized by ordinance, was violated by the appointment of Dagnan as the assistant city administrator in January of 22. There's no indication that there's no minutes to look at. There's nothing there, so it doesn't say it was temporary. Therefore, it's a violation. And with the appointment of the current city administrator, there was no ordinance passed. So, unfortunately, the assistant city administrator is serving illegally as well. Now, I don't believe that you council members are responsible for these violations of the charter, city code, and the Missouri statutes. These are the responsibility of the mayor, as I indicated earlier. Of course, he should be advised in this regard by the city attorney, the city administrator, and the minutes do reflect that Tom Short tried to do that up until he was summarily asked to resign with no thanks for 20 years of service, I might add, in April of 22. The city attorney has obviously been negligent in this regard of advising the mayor. So now that you council persons are aware of these transgressions, the correct thing is to go back and correct them now with the proper ordinances so the public can be informed and comment. The spirit of good government is to follow the city charter and ordinances and to be open and transparent with citizens so they can provide input should they so choose. Please fix these apparent intentional violations of the charter and city code. Thank you for your attention. I do have
to follow someone as eloquent as Mr. Putnam. My name is Amy Grimes, and I live at 729 East Highland. I hate conflict, and I hate talking in front of grown-ups. But with that said, I feel passionate enough about the direction in which Carthage is going to convey my feelings. I've lived in Carthage my entire life and have a deep love and appreciation for both the town and its citizens. It's a blessing to live in a town with a rich history, supporting people, and such beautiful homes and buildings. I want to address personally a few of the council members. Terry, I've respected you for years and want to thank you for being a leader among women of this town. You've worked hard and have helped Carthage remain a destination worth visiting. Thank you for doing the right thing and for being a positive influence on our city. I also wanted to thank Tiffany for her diligence in trying to ensure that the city council dealings are legal and upfront, and to thank all of you sitting up here for taking on this thankless job and for taking time out of your personal lives to serve our community, and to those who had the courage to take another look at the CWIP dismissal issue and voted as your constituents wished. Abby, I know you're not on the council. Thank you for your work, the work you put into beautifying Carthage. Thank you for following through with the implementation of the fantastic new park equipment for our children and other ideas proposed by your predecessor, Mark Peterson.
I was disappointed to hear Mark's resignation, which was influenced by the lack of support from the current city administrator and the mayor. Mark, Danny, and Nate, and this hurts me. It's difficult to see the issues occurring in Carthage. I've known you all since I was a little girl and have always enjoyed and respected you. It's disheartening to see you, all smart, respected men, being played as a pawn. Danny and Nate, I understand that during your terms, the city received an email from the railroad companies admitting that they were responsible for the upkeep of the bridges in Carthage. Because Nate did not file the requested legal paperwork in a timely manner, time ran out on the contract. Now the city of Carthage is responsible for the revenue necessary to repair our bridges, which will cost our city millions of dollars, a very costly error. Danny, your lack of leadership, wavering ability to tell the truth, and reliance on Mr. Dagnan has tarnished your reputation and legacy as mayor. You've lost the respect of many citizens. Many believe that the efforts to remove the CWIP board are because some of you want to control all of the CWIP profits and reserves. Is 3.5% of CWIP revenue not enough to pull the city out of our current financial deficit? Why in the world would a city council secretly and cowardly vote to remove a board of directors who have served this community for so many years and have done an exceptional job? Why were you unable to discuss the issue? If there is a valid reason, then why can't the citizens be made aware of the reason? Why would you vote to remove an entire experienced board only to replace them with people who have no training in serving on a municipal city board? The current CWIP board consists of honest, respected, hardworking, dedicated, generous people who always will have my utmost respect. Why does Mr. Dagnan have so much control over you? How did Mr. Dagnan's position become permanent? It's my understanding that Mr. Dagnan was on the committee to write the job description of our city administrator. That seems very unethical. It's also my understanding that the primary responsibility of a city administrator should be managing the city budget. Didn't Mr. Dagnan change the portion where the job description was to have someone else handle that budget? Why was that allowed to happen? Many Carthaginians think our current leadership must change and feel that Carthage is suffering at the hands of people who are being misled. The decisions and actions taken by some have led many to believe you're being manipulated and underlying motives might be involved in your actions and decisions. I certainly hope this is not the case. Mr. Dagnan has divided our town, and there's got to be a stop to it. Along with this, he doesn't live in Carthage. Are there council minutes stating the approval of his living outside our city? When a leader does not live in the town he supposedly promotes, there's a problem. Being a resident of Carthage should be your first requirement of a city administrator. Carthage has the unique position of having a plethora of generous organizations and groups that donate to our citizens and towns, such as Steadley Trust and McCumberg's Trust, and many, many more. Because some of your decisions, these groups are hesitant to support your projects. We're blessed with something that most towns are not. Be transparent and work with these groups to enhance Carthage. Do not alienate them. I believe that most of the citizens of Carthage want to move forward following the CWIP issue, but some things must happen before that can occur. You as the city council have the power to use your positions to make a strong city. With strong leadership, we can move forward from this issue and learn from past mistakes. That issue is simply the final straw in the simmering dissatisfaction that citizens have had with incidents taking place in this city. We cannot move onward and upward under our city administrator's direction. It's time for a start in looking to replace our city administrator with a person who lives in Carthage and puts Carthage ahead of personal agendas. Please strive for transparency in your actions and decisions. Listen to your constituents. Work with the variety of trust groups and foundations that Carthage is very blessed to have. Seriously consider the quest for a qualified and unbiased city administrator who lives in Carthage and has Carthage's best interest at heart. You have the ability to make positive changes, and now's the time to begin. Let's work together to fix our mistakes and move forward, continuing the beautiful legacy that our predecessors set for Carthage. Thank you.
My name is Jackie Booyer. I live at 1184 South Main Street. And can everyone hear me? Can you hear me? Mayor, council, and others that are here. There's a lot going on in the city, and I don't understand the why of most of it. And I think many citizens agree with me. The mayor and the council, you ran for election because you felt you had something to offer. But being a decision maker is not always easy, and sometimes it's contrary to what you want. Been there, done that, 13 years worth. Some good, some not so good. A comment was made about getting rid of third-party users. I'm not real sure exactly what was meant by that statement, but do you want to get rid of or defund Carthage Vision, United Way, Crisis Center, Boots Motel, Kiwanis Club, Garden Clubs, Rotary, Kellogg Lake Board? The list goes on if this is your intention. I'm sure that many of you have also been volunteers in some of these organizations, and those are the things that make this a caring community. What the community is experiencing now is difficult. You are attempting to control CWNEP that, quite frankly, does not need your help. It is successful. It sends money to the city's coffers. The employees are well trained. Management and board are ever mindful of the needs of the citizens, and the utility is recognized for its excellence by state and national organization. But I still don't understand what is happening to our city. Did it start 4 months ago when Mr. Daly, while looking up info on pay from 50 years ago, found what he considered to be an ordinance discrepancy? It was 50 years old and had never been an issue. Or did it start in 2020 when Police Chief Dagnan was approaching retirement from the police force with his 20 years of service? He presented a succession plan to the mayor and council, and it did include a new position, that of an assistant city administrator. In 2021, Michael Miller, Human Resources, after an internal city search, so-called, presented retired Police Chief Dagnan with the opportunity to be the new city assistant administrator. July 1st, 2021 for 6 months, but he stayed until June 30, 2022. This worked well for Mr. Dagnan, as he liked working in Carthage, even though he didn't want to live here as required by the city charter. By April 1st, 2022, Mr. Tom Short was removed from office in a closed meeting, and his reputation was smeared and slurs were cast against him. There was no gold watch for his 20 years of service to the city. In the same closed meeting, Mr. Dagnan was hired as city administrator without further search. And I don't have the backup information that Bill presented, but I'm sure you are aware there are no minutes of a lot of this. After April the 22nd, several longtime employees and employees that were hired while Mr. Short was city administrator were dismissed, and were followed by rumors and slurs that could play negatively in their search for other employment. Tracy Cox was moved into the assistant administrator position. The replacements for all those positions lost was acceptable to Mr. Dagnan, so no honor to the so-called winners. The city administrator is responsible for budget preparation, and Dagnan was still an assistant administrator. Budget starts very early. Priorities are set in the previous year. This year, a crisis occurred. It was alleged that funds were missing, and one of the reasons for Mr. Short's removal. Explanation given: it was misplaced. Mr. Dagnan, in a June council meeting, gave all the credit for the budget preparations to Tracy Cox, and he became city administrator July 1st, 2023. Now we are involved in the CWNEP controversy. Ordinance 2-320 comes to Daly, Rife, and Dagnan's attention. A closed session is called, and lo and behold, when they emerge from closed session, there is an immediate call for the dismissal of the entire CWNEP board. What and why? There was no discussion. Then the board is reinstated. Agreements are made between Mayor Rife and CWNEP on how to proceed. The city immediately broke that agreement. Okay, we have a do-over. And again, and again. Mr. Daly brings in an attorney who is an expert and has been a city manager. He was well primed, but does not make a great impression. he spent much time on the Sunshine Law. Unfortunately, even though the mayor has stated that CWNEP and employees will be schooled in the usage of the Sunshine Law, only the mayor, council, and administrator have been violators of the Sunshine Law and has been reprimanded by the Missouri State Attorney's Office. There is much speculation about what the council is trying to accomplish. Do they enjoy the prospect of reducing the efficiency of CWNEP, causing rates hikes, or do they want to control the money or replace the leadership? Is there someone waiting in the wings? The city of Carthage has a utility that is the envy of many communities. The utilities employees are well trained and their worth is appreciated by other utilities. They are an important financial resource for CWNEP, and the crisis created by the council and mayor and administrator has caused other utilities to approach CWNEP employees, trying to entice them away. And it is expensive to train people to work safely with what CWNEP does. Right now, we are experiencing our own crisis. Government is well known for its inability to run a business successfully. We need competent leadership from the mayor, administrator, attorney, and council. And I have a message for the employees of CWNEP, and it is this: we appreciate what you do. We support you against unfounded rumors. Please stay. Many citizens are trying to keep you and your workplace a place of pride. Carthage deserves competent leadership. Mr. Rife, you ran for mayor, so be it. The main issue of the Carthage hometown charter was to have a government based on a mayor, council, and administrator. The one issue from the beginning was to not have a manager. There is a significant difference between manager and administrator and the power that they have. You can ask for assistance from your city administrator, but you cannot allow him to run the city. Either do your job or resign.
All right, Jackie, thank you.
I've been here before. I'm Jack Cruz. I live at 701 East Highland. Been a resident of this community all my life. And the points that have been made before me are good ones. I hope you'll take them to heart. But I'm here to speak on behalf of the advisory board of the Steadley Trust. Over 3 months ago, we became concerned about the direction of the city leadership as you were moving to remove the CWNEP board. It seemed like a clear lack of experienced business management. We recommended to the trustee of the Steadley Trust that the $1 million grant to the city for the industrial park be placed on hold until we saw excuse me, a formal agreement for independent management of the park by the CEDC. An open structure with the mayor and city administrator basically in control would not be acceptable to us. The trustee notified the mayor that the grant would not be made without such an agreement, and today, 3 months later, there is still no such agreement in place, and the funds are still on hold. We strongly recommend, no, we insist, that the mayor and administrator get priority on this, lest the grant be withdrawn completely. We as an advisory board continue to be uncomfortable with the apparent lack of competent leadership in our city at this time, and the divide it has created with what appears to be a large majority of the citizens sharing a lack of confidence in such leadership. The Steadley Trust has been a major benefactor to this city, with grants over the years totaling over $12 million, not counting the $1 million which is currently on hold. We encourage you to lead in a way that gives us confidence that future grants will be well managed so as to allow us to make positive recommendations to the trustee to approve such grants.
Thank you. All right, we'll move on to report of standing committees. Budget, Ways and Means, Chairman Snow.
Thank you, Your Honor. Budget Ways and Means Committee met here September 6th at 5:30 in council chambers. We had several items on our agenda. The first item was a budget adjustment to finish out the 22-23 budget and do the rollovers and clean up the accounts for the 23-24 budget. And that's going to be on first reading tonight, Council Bill 2363. We also reviewed and forwarded a contract with Total Electronics. It is also on the agenda tonight for first reading in Council Bill 2364, and that contract is for the security equipment for the doors to secure City Hall. Another item on our agenda was the MoDOT grant for the taxi. That's on Council Bill tonight, Council Bill 2362. And due to timing, it is an emergency ordinance. So we will forward that to second reading tonight so that we can have a vote on 2362, the grant from MoDOT for our city taxi. During staff reports, we did find out that retail sales tax for last month was below budget, and our use tax came in over budget for last month reporting period. Our next meeting is October 9th at 5:30 here in council chambers. Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you. Committee on Insurance Audit and Claims, Chairperson Blair.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The Committee on Insurance Audits and Claims met on September 12th at 5:30 in council chambers. We did not have much to discuss. Mr. Meredith was going to discuss economic development ideas and policies, but he's making the rounds to all of the committees, and since most of our committee who were here had already heard his talk, he decided to wait and catch the member who hadn't heard at their next committee meeting. So we had no other things on the agenda, and there were no reports because of everyone being gone at MML. So it was a quick meeting after we approved the claims, and our next meeting will be on September 26th at 5:30 in council chambers.
All right, thank you. Public Safety, Chairman Elliff.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Public safety is between meetings. Our next meeting is this coming Monday, the 18th, 5:30 here in council chambers. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Public Services, Chairman Hardesty.
Thank you, Your Honor. We are also between meetings. Our next meeting is next Tuesday, September 19th, 5:30 here in chambers.
All right, Public Works, Chairman Armstrong.
Thank you, Your Honor. Public Works met last Tuesday, the 5th, here in council chambers. We have two items that will be on the agenda tonight. The first item will be junk removal and mowing fees. The second item will be the TAP grant. Those will be respectively Council Bill 2365, and that is for $318,296.23 to improve sidewalks between River and Fairview. Council Bill 2366, which will be for nuisance abatement and violations, and then Council Bill 2367, which will deal with mowing fees and junk removal as well. Thank you.
All right, thank you. We'll move on to reports from special committees and board liaisons. Mr. Ellis.
Thank you, Your Honor. Planning, Zoning, and Historic Preservation met September the 7th here in council chambers. One of the items discussed was approval and forwarding to the council special use permit for the carnival in conjunction with the Maple Leaf Festival. That's first reading tonight of Council Bill 2368. Discussion regarding the certified local government form in Jefferson City for some training. Mr. Meredith talked about some potential of blight declaration on some property, something that is being worked on at this point. Design guideline grant was discussed from the State Historic Preservation Office. We'll be working on that. And the next meeting of Planning, Zoning, and Historic Preservation will be on October the 2nd. Additionally, Cume Brooks Hospital Trust met on August 30th. I was not in attendance at that meeting. I did talk with Chairman Peterson tonight. There are two resolutions, Resolution 2007 and Resolution 2008, that is being forwarded to the council from them. Basically, the committee did talk about these and are recommending them for approval tonight. As I said, they're in the packet. The next meeting of the Hospital Trust will be September 29th, off premises from the council chambers. That's all I have tonight, Your Honor. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Ms. Blankenship?
Yes, Your Honor. The Kellogg Lake Board met on Tuesday, September 12th at 6 p.m. at Southwest Missouri Bank, and they elected a new board president, Jackie Bouyer. So she replaces David Longhorn as he stepped down. So she's the main lady now for the Kellogg Lake Board.
All right. What else? All right, we'll move on to mayor's report. A good part of the council was at the MML conference this week. We appreciate being there every year. It's informative, lots of good classes to sit through, and I think we got a lot out of it, so appreciate that. We'll move on to report our remarks from council members. Ms. Enzer.
I don't have anything at this time.
No?
Nothing this evening.
No, thank you.
Nothing. Thank you.
I dare not. No, thank you.
Alan?
Nothing tonight, Your Honor.
All right. Move on to administrative reports. Mr. Dowling.
I'll try to keep it brief. We been busy 3 weeks since our last council meeting, so I met with Cassandra Ludwig, the general counsel for Water and Electric, and to go over the ordinance changes that were proposed, that were taken before the committee. And we worked over, I think, pretty good what the committee had recommended. The first one you'll see is up for first reading tonight, which is also one that the mayor had agreed with them to give their board more protection under the code for if there was an attempt to remove any board member. It outlines what the specifications for that are. I think that's one that was pretty clear that we needed to get in place, so we have outlined that they wanted to make sure that nobody had to worry in the future of just removal. I think you guys have seen some other things, some legal stuff we've had, that kind of some things going around that are not possible under our charter. We've talked about the charter enough tonight, but to change the charter, just to be pretty simple, to amend anything in the charter requires a vote of all the citizens of Carthage, or all those who do vote. And so some of the things at least have been brought to my attention from people calling in is how can the city do A or B or C, remove the board, sell the electric company, transfer control. None of those things are legally possible without an amendment by the citizens of the city, nor they've been discussed by anybody in this room, I don't think, at least not anybody here or anybody with me. So, I think those need to be legally wise. If it's a legal impossibility, then that needs to be outlined, that those things aren't going to take place. I think that's all I have tonight.
All right. Chief Hawkins.
Nothing tonight, though.
Chief Huntley.
Nothing tonight, Your Honor.
Mr. Carney.
The only thing I've got is we did have the street department guys prepare for the concrete pad in Central Park, with the exception of the new civil wall cannon. So it's completed. Cannon will be set next week, and that's all I have for this evening.
All right. Thank you. Ms. Almendinger.
I have a few things. Municipal and Carter Park playgrounds have been completed with the shelters, and you'll also see the parking lots as well have been striped there and are available for use, so that's exciting. Work continues at Kellogg Lake for the playground there, and there is a lot of construction at Griggs Park with a lot of conversations about what's happening there. So there's a lot happening there. I won't identify all of those things, but just in case you play basketball, that will be secure, so don't worry, we'll be having a basketball court, promise. Lots of excitement in all the parks. The golf course continues to thrive. We're averaging more than 300 rounds per month for the last several months as compared to previous years. That's all I have tonight. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Mr. Dagnan.
Thank you, Your Honor. So I'm going to say a few things tonight. I was told by maybe a very wise citizen, we'll see, that when the public gets up and says things and we say nothing, then what is said is assumed to be true. So I'm probably going to give the longest report tonight that I've ever given since I've been here. A couple of things. First of all, some good news. We have Jen Kirby in the audience. She is our new tourism director. She started today. Everyone, I think, knows Jen, but she has hit the ground running, already doing a great job, and it's her first day, so welcome to the city, Jen. I also want to say that this will be the first council meeting that the last few have been recorded, and we've kind of tweaked I say we, really, Michael Keith, our IT guys, kind of tweaked the quality, and we are ready to post. So this is the first meeting that will be posted. We are dangerously close to being able to live stream, so that will be pretty exciting, I think, when we get that done. A few things that were mentioned tonight as far as the Steadley Trust and the $1 million grant. I was told by the chair of the CEDC that he came to me and asked if the city would enter into a management agreement, and I said, of course we will. And I was told that somebody is writing that. If we have misunderstood somehow, I will get with him and make sure. But as far as I know, it is not on the city to write the management agreement. However, when it is done, we are more than willing to enter into it. However, the first thing I will do tomorrow is check on that. The other thing I'd like to say is I came up here to City Hall to learn from Mr. Short. I always had a lot of respect for Mr. Short. We worked together for 15 years when I was police chief. And any allegation that there were any missing funds regarding his departure were untrue rumors. There were not missing funds when Tom left. I don't know where that rumor came from. That is not true. We did not misplace any funds. That is an untrue rumor. I also want to say that I did not retire from the PD. I'm still not drawing retirement from the PD. This body at the time asked me to come up. They were concerned that Tom was getting to the end of his career, Tom Short, and that nobody really knew how he did his job. So they asked me to come up here and learn how to do this job. I actually left early, it did not benefit me or my family at all, because I should have stayed at the PD and just drawn my retirement. And I did not do that because I cared about the city and wanted to do that. So that's not true. I will also say to Mr. Putnam, some of those minutes you referred to do exist. I will have city staff look tomorrow and we will make sure and get those to you. I want to address a couple more things. So on the railroad, that's kind of true. But not entirely true. Here's the thing. We hired an outside law firm, Spencer Fain. They are representing us on the lawsuit. It is not Nate Dally. There's not an email. There's actually a court ruling and then an appeals court ruling, and the ruling indicated that the railroad owns those bridges. They also said, because we did a lot of trying to negotiate with them, seeing if we could work it out, seeing if we could cut a deal, essentially the court said, well, the minute we knew, we should have sued them instead of trying to negotiate with them. So the courts are saying they are theirs. We should have sued them sooner. That has nothing to do with Mr. Dally or anything that was not done or neglect by any city staff. I will also say that according to the charter and ordinances, I am the budget officer of the city. Just because different parts of the budget, every department head does their part of the budget. Just because the budget is delegated, parts are delegated, I'm the one that is ultimately responsible. Going to some things that Mr. Dally just said. Rumors that are going around. It is against the provisions of the city charter to dissolve the Water and Electric Board. It cannot be done without a vote of the people. rumors that we are trying to do that are just not true. You can't do it. We couldn't legally do it. Now, the council and the mayor have the authority who's on the board, how many are on the board, things like that, but it cannot be dissolved. Similarly, selling or giving away water and electric is not legally possible without a vote of the people. First of all, why would we ever do that? We've got a great utility. But second of all, we couldn't if we wanted to without a vote of the people. So that is another untrue rumor. Something that keeps being addressed is that somehow we're going to transfer control of water and electric to me. Again, not legally possible. If there's got to be a board. But even if there weren't a board, it doesn't go to me. It goes to the mayor and council. But again, we can't get rid of the board. We can't transfer water and electric to me. Again, these are rumors that are affecting our community negatively. I do also want to say that, okay, I've been asked, why do we want to take over water and electric? Well, first of all, water and electric is a municipally owned utility. The city owns it. Therefore, the legislative body of water and electric is right here. It's the mayor and council. The authority that water and electric has to do their job is issued by ordinances from this body. The budget of water and electric is approved by this body. The policies and ordinances created that let them do what they do are created by this body. So it is extremely difficult to take over something that you own. I will say this, if what they mean is that we're going to substantially change the organization of water and electric, how, the structure, or if we're trying to raid the reserves of water and electric, I will tell you, I've never been at one meeting with staff, the mayor, or council where either one of those things has ever been discussed. In fact, it is the opposite. Every time we're in a meeting, it is water and electric works great. Why would we restructure it, or why would we change it? So I also want to report that, if I can get my computer to work here, it's because it's got some water in it, yeah. I also want to report that we did have a meeting last Thursday. Just a second here. We did have a meeting last Thursday, and I want to, so the people that were there, and by the way, council, I was going to send you out an email about this, and everything was just happening too fast, but I will send you an email about exactly what happened. But the mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, city attorney, me, assistant city administrator, water and electric board president, a board member, the general manager of water and electric, and the general counsel of water and electric, we all met, and the purpose of the meeting was, how can we end this dispute and reassure the employees of water and electric that everything is okay? And today, at around 5 o'clock, the mayor issued a letter to the water and electric employees reassuring them that this salary study is not going to affect them negatively, that is not the intent of the council. And I will give you that letter, but just to read a short portion of it, first and foremost, we want to assure you that your jobs are safe. We will not recommend or expect a reduction in staffing at the water electric plant due to this salary study. We realize that for you to be paid fairly and based on market is important, but our commitment is to a comprehensive salary study to make sure that you are fairly paid and equitably paid according to your job. It also mentions that our commitment to the water electric employees is unwavering, and that we do not expect any salaries or benefits to be reduced as a part of this salary study. So that letter went out to the staff today. So I think, I'm sorry that took so long, sir, but that ends my report. Thank you.
And well, I appreciate you saying that. I was holding off and not going to comment on that until the letter went out and all the employees had gotten it, but it's out there now, so we're good. So you bet.
May I ask a question? May I ask a question, please? So is the version that we received the final version, and has CWNEP seen it? The ordinance.
I'm sorry, which ordinance are you referring to?
I'm sorry. The, the one in the packet, for, that is discussing CWNEP and the changes.
The, yes, the ordinance in the packet that essentially protects the board
Right.
for more, is that the one you're referring to? Yes, that
Yeah,
is,
that is.
now it's first reading, but that is the final ordinance that is being proposed
Okay,
tonight.
and CWNEP has seen that in the current form.
Well, I mean, we publicly publish it,
Okay, I just
You
want to
know.
make sure.
Yep.
Yeah.
Thank you.
yeah.
All right. We'll move on to claims report.
Yeah.
The Committee on Claims filed a report in the amount of $2,975,436.73.
Ms. Blair,
I make a motion to accept the report and allow the claims.
Second.
have a motion and a second to accept the report and allow the claims. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We'll move on to old business.
An ordinance authorizing the mayor to enter into a contract with Fairway IQ Incorporated to provide an annual subscription for GPS sensors for golf carts in the city of Carthage, Missouri.
Any discussion? Cast your votes. Council bill passes.
I don't think you finished it. You got it. Plus motion again. Second reading. Second reading of Council Bill 23-58, an ordinance authorizing the mayor to enter into a contract with the Fair Acres Family YMCA Incorporated for a use agreement of a golf simulator in the city of Carthage, Missouri.
Any discussion? Cast your vote. Council bill passes.
Second reading of Council Bill 23-59, an ordinance repealing and replacing the cost recovery fees for the Parks Department in the city of Carthage, Missouri.
Any discussion? Cast your vote. Council bill passes.
Second reading of Council Bill 23-60, an ordinance authorizing the mayor to execute amendments to the police and fire pension plan to change the trust service provider.
Any discussion? Cast your vote. Council bill passes.
Second reading of Council Bill 23-61, an ordinance authorizing a special use permit for a one licensed operator beauty shop by Brittany Parrish in her residence at 1330 Glenwood Place in the city of Carthage, Missouri.
Any discussion? Cast your vote. Council bill passes. We'll move on to new business.
First reading of Council Bill 23-62, an emergency ordinance to authorize the mayor to apply for federal financial assistance on behalf of the city of Carthage and to execute any contracts resulting from such application for any grants between the city of Carthage and the Missouri Highway and Transportation Commission, providing for capital, operating, and/or marketing assistance comprised of federal funds to be expended for commission-approved transit projects.
Mr. Snow.
Your Honor, due to the timing of this grant application, I move that we forward Council Bill 2362 to second reading.
Second.
You have a motion and a second to forward this council bill to second reading. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Second reading of Council Bill 23-62, an emergency ordinance to authorize the mayor to apply for federal financial assistance on behalf of the city of Carthage and to execute any contracts resulting from such application for any grants between the city of Carthage and the Missouri Highways and Transportation Commission, providing for capital, operating, and/or marketing assistance comprised of federal funds to be expended for commission-approved transit projects.
Any discussion? Mr. Snow.
For some who may be new to the council, every year this grant application comes up for council approval. The state has awarded us different years, different amounts. They've given us grants to purchase the taxis that we have for the city taxi. They've given us grants to provide for the salary of the drivers for the taxi. Each year it kind of varies from one year to the next, whether they give us money for a new taxi or they give us money to operate the taxi. So the wording in this ordinance is kind of vague, in this council bill, kind of vague, but that's basically, it's the taxi grant that we apply for every year. And we're very fortunate that the state does help us run the taxi, because on its own, I don't believe we could afford to run the taxi for the city. So I just wanted to let everyone have a better understanding of what we're approving right now.
All right. Anything else? Cast your votes.
Nope. First reading.
Nope, they just read second reading.
No.
Council bill passes.
First reading of Council Bill 23-63, an ordinance amending the annual operating and capital budget of the city of Carthage for fiscal years 2022 to 2023 and 2023 to 2024 for the general fund.
Any discussion? All right.
First reading of Council Bill 23-64, an ordinance of the City of Carthage, Missouri, authorizing the mayor to execute an agreement between the City of Carthage, Missouri and Total Electronics Contracting Incorporated for installing door access controls for security at City Hall.
Any discussion? All right.
First reading of Council Bill 23-65, an ordinance of the City of Carthage, Missouri, authorizing the mayor to enter into a contract between the City of Carthage, Missouri and G&G Construction Company Incorporated for sidewalk improvements along River Street between Fairview and Airport Drive pursuant to TAP 1601704 in the amount of $318,269.23 in the City of Carthage, Missouri.
Any discussion? Mr. Snow.
I would like to thank Mr. Carney for finally, we have a contract to get this sidewalk done. This sidewalk will now connect basically the junior high to the high school and back. We've had kids walking down River Street with no sidewalk from Fairview to Airport since the high school's been built, and I can't tell you how much I appreciate this contract finally coming to council. So thank you, Mr. Carney, for your work on this.
All right.
First read of Council Bill 23-66, an ordinance establishing a nuisance and abatement. Oh, that's all right. Wait, sorry. Say that again. First reading of Council Bill 23-66, an ordinance establishing a nuisance and abatement violation cost recovery fee in the city of Carthage, Missouri.
Any discussion? All right.
First reading of Council Bill 23-67, an ordinance to amend Chapter 13 of the Code of the City of Carthage to add Article 4, Aesthetic Regulations in the City of Carthage, Missouri.
Any discussion? All right.
First reading of Council Bill 23-68, an ordinance authorizing a special use permit for operation of a carnival at Fair Acres Sports Complex in the city of Carthage, Jasper County, Missouri.
Any discussion? All right.
First reading of Council Bill 23-69, an ordinance to amend Section 2-317 and Section 2-121 of the Carthage Code to include the members of the CWEP Board under the removal procedures, the same as officers of the city, and to change the removal to be for cause for all officers of the city in the city of Carthage, Missouri.
Any discussion?
May I, Your Honor? I think I know where you're going, Ms. Heckmaster, I'm sorry. So this came out of the ad hoc committee, and I don't know if Nate or the mayor want to talk about it more, but this was the joint committee, and this was one of the things that both Water and Electric and the members of the council agreed that we could and should do, and that's why you're seeing it. So this is the one we worked on together. Is that fair to say?
Yeah.
Okay. I don't know if that answers your question or not, but.
I appreciate that. So I think, given the fact that there are so many citizens that care about this, that the actual council bill should be read to them this evening. Just my opinion.
You mean the actual ordinance?
Yes, I'm sorry. Yes. It will soon be a bill.
No, yes,
If it
yes,
passes.
correct. Oh, yes.
Your Honor, I was going to let everybody know where they could find this online. You can choose whether you want it read into the minutes or if you just want them to have access to it. But I have looked it up in our council packet. The council packets are available on carthagemo.civicclerk.com. Under there, you can see our agenda and you can see our packet. It is in tonight's packet in pages 119 through pages 121. Tonight's packet has 144 pages in it. So
well done, Brandy.
There is as I got an email back from Cassandra, a typo in 2317 subsection C. So I think if we read that incorrectly, it says before the expiration of their current term, not before their expiration of their current term.
All right. All right.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. What I'd like to ask, I understand the meaning behind it, but I'd respectfully like to ask Greg Dagnan to explain why this one particular board is being included as members of the city. I believe it has to do with the charter, and it actually should be done. I'll be voting in favor of it when it comes, but if you could explain it again to me.
I will certainly try my best. So in trying to determine where the Water and Electric Board falls on, for lack of a better term, the food chain of the city, we've obviously, Mr. Dowley's rendered an opinion, we got outside council opinion, but the opinion seems to be that the Water and Electric Board is essentially equivalent to a department head. So, police chief, fire chief, department head. Well, their board is the department head of Water and Electric. So if that legal representation is true, which I believe it is, then that would make them an officer of the city. At this point, our ordinances and charter are silent on the water and electric board, where they fall in the food chain. So if this, these legal opinions are correct, that they're officers of the city, then to be removed, other than the expiration of a board term, would mean that it would follow the procedures of the removal of officer of the city. So in my opinion, we are putting something in writing that does not yet exist, but probably should have been done way back when the charter was passed. Did that help?
Yes, it does. I'd also like to point out that in my research today, I found in our policy about social media use by council members and employees and things like that, the officers of the city are actually identified by definition. It says which are officers of the city, and it's basically pretty much everybody you can think of. So it's a broad definition, but the definition is actually there, and it is actually in writing. And I'd also like to repeat that this understanding that the board needs to be in place as officers of the city for additional representation is because they were included and formed by a portion of the charter that gives them a special standing from other appointed boards, and the feeling and the interest in correcting this came out of the discussions with the attorney that Mr. Daly authorized that we hire. That was one of his suggestions. You've made a mistake by not including them, so you should change that. That would be an appropriate thing to do. So that's what we're doing.
Thank you. Ms. Blair.
I'll be recognized. I represent the board. I do not believe that the predicate that the city administrator states is correct. This is merely to protect the members of the board from being summarily fired. Has nothing to do with an acquiescence that we are a mere department of the city. I want that understood. That is not our position.
Okay.
On that note, if we are understanding them by charter to be part of the city, like other department heads, shouldn't they be part of our council meetings like other department heads are? And is there a reason as to why they're not?
It could be. I mean, sure.
I would just be curious on everyone's thoughts
Right.
on that. We don't have to resolve that tonight, but that seems
Right.
like a difference in how we are currently operating.
Yeah, it's never been that way, but that's not to say that it couldn't be or shouldn't be.
And my second question is so the ordinance or the council bill reads as the same as officers of the city, and I'm just curious as to what was the removal procedure, or was there any explicit procedure?
At the will of the council and the mayor.
I'm sorry.
It was at the pleasure of the will
Okay.
of the council and the mayor.
And just to clarify, it sounds like you're saying that this was agreed upon by both CWEP and
Yep.
you all in that meeting for looking at that. So this has been approved and CWEP agrees with the wording of this council bill? Is that how we would understand it?
To the best of my, I know that we worked on it with, or I worked on it with Cassandra, so I don't know. I'm assuming yes.
Okay.
And though some of it was drafted by them ahead of time, most of it, so I would assume that is.
Can I, Mr. Mayor, can I? Sure. So to your idea of having a water and electric representative here that would give a report at every meeting, that idea has been tossed around. I think it's a great idea, but it would we would have to change the format of the council meeting a little bit, but I think it's a wonderful idea to do that. Just my opinion.
All right. Move on to mayor's appointments.
The mayor's appointment of Chris Taylor as the Kellogg Lake Board Liaison, replacing Trudy Blankenship until April 2024.
Mr. Armstrong.
Seeing as Mr. Taylor's not here, I will forward his nomination to the council.
Second.
Have a motion and a second to accept the mayor's appointments. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Move on to resolutions.
Resolution 2007, a resolution approving the recommendation of the McCune Brooks Regional Hospital Trust for the distribution of funds, $60,000 for 5 years from the restricted trust fund for Global Transformation International.
Any discussion? Mr. Hardesty.
Thank you. Let's see if I can get this right here. I looked over their application. I know this has been recommended by the Hospital Trust Fund Board. To me, unfortunately, it just doesn't feel right. The reason they're asking for the money is to buy a building for more room to maybe see more patients, help more families, further their cause and effect with citizens. However, the need for the money coming from this fund, it doesn't, in my mind, fulfill the right thing to use the money for. I can't think of the right word to use, but it doesn't taste right. It's basically giving money to a business, taking the tax-exempt 501c3 status out of the picture. It's basically giving money that's to be used for the betterment of the citizens of Carthage. It's taking money from that fund and giving it to a business to buy a building so they can have more room. That, to me, is not right, and I'm going to vote no.
Ms. Blair.
I would also express concern about funding this for different reasons than what Mr. Hardesty talked about. I think that there could be some benefit to the city through an organization like this, and clearly they have letters of support that show that it has been. I'm not confident that it's the best use of city funds for this particular organization due to a couple of reasons. One is the religious nature of it. I think it's a very specific group of people that would benefit from it, but I'm concerned that it would blur some separation of church and state in that, and I'm not sure that's the best use of public funds. And from a professional perspective, I wouldn't feel comfortable approving this based on the fact that I don't see any licensures in there that would provide some safety precautions on making sure that people were receiving the care they need. That's what licensures do. They provide regulations and boards oversee things. And when we have pastoral counseling, those regulations look quite different than like professional counselors or marriage and family therapists. And I would not in good conscience be able to vote to city funds toward an organization, although I think it could be helpful for some citizens in the city.
All right. Mr. Armstrong.
Thank you, Your Honor. I seem to always be at odds with the McCune Brooks Board on how they choose to spend their money. This one in particular, we have funded buildings before. So I don't think this is out of line with what the McCune Brooks Trust has done in the past. We helped purchase a building for the Y, which is religious in nature. And I don't think that I don't think that the issues are so withstanding that it's inconceivable. I think that I share many of the same concerns as Dr. Blair in that how they approach their approach to counseling, I think is not in line with what would be in the best interest of the citizens in regards to the use of this money. I don't think that this is an appropriate expenditure given the nature of what they're asking. Whereas with the difference being with the Y, it was geared more towards children and providing after-school activities, and was more beneficial to a wider range of citizens than this would be more of a niche group. I don't, on principle, oppose anything they're doing. I think it's great work, but I just don't think it's appropriate for this body to approve that amount of money.
And I'm fairly new at this, so just bear with me, but is there a way that the board could, or has more information, so if it's tabled, possibly, I don't know if this can be tabled as a resolution, where we could see all of that information in case they do have those licensures, and they do have other factual information that would benefit our community, because we need, there's a lot of things that are needed in this town with this kind of thing, that if it's just totally out, voted no on, and there are some things that we could see and have that might make a difference of just not voting no. Does that make, that's just my point.
Well, it is a resolution. If no one makes a motion and no one seconds the motion, it doesn't move from where it is right now. So, and I suppose if further information was presented at a later time, it could be put back on the agenda another time if there's enough information that someone feels like it might change opinions. Mr. Hardesty.
Just an additional quick question on my part. Since I have a problem with the use of the money in this instance in buying a building and all the things that I stated earlier, is it possible, if we table it, to speak with them or have them speak with the board and change maybe what they want the money for? I would have no problem. In their description, they say that they charge people seemingly a minor amount, and then they also work on a pro bono service when it's judged that the people are having trouble with payments and things like that. Is it possible to use some of that money to help families and help people with their payments, being able to offset some of their pro bono work? That seems to me to be a little more proper use of the money to me than it is buying a building. Just a suggestion. I'm not big on this kind of stuff, but
I believe, Ed, if this resolution would have to either pass or fail, they could reapply for a second,
Okay.
for
All right.
different reason, but this resolution must pass or fail.
okay, and that's the reason I asked the question, is I
Yeah,
didn't know
based
how
on
that could
this
be done.
request.
Okay.
No, there is not a motion.
All right. So we'll move on to resolution 2008.
Do we need to still vote on this?
No.
No, 'cause
There
there's
has
no
been no
motion.
motion and no second.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, I'll take the responsibility of letting the board know that there was no motion or second, but
Right.
they maybe should reapply in a different manner.
Sounds like it.
Resolution 2008, a resolution approving the recommendation of the McCune Brooks Regional Hospital Trust for the distribution of funds, $6,000 from the restricted trust fund to Vision Carthage.
Any discussion? Mr. Armstrong.
Thank you, Your Honor. Yet again, I'm going to say that I don't feel that this meets the spirit of what the sale of the McCune Brooks Hospital was meant for. I would love to see this mural painted. I don't believe that the McCune Brooks Hospital Regional Trust is meant for painting murals. I think that there are better uses for this money.
Your Honor.
Yes, Ms.
I do have a question because the trust is not something that we see frequently. Can you give me a little education on, I know that the money came from selling the hospital, which was done through, it was a charter thing, so it had to be done through a vote of the citizens. But what are the guidelines on this money and how it is to be spent?
The committee decides from applications, and it's supposed to benefit the Carthage area. Is that the way it's worded?
The Carthage metropolitan area.
The health and well-being or health and welfare
of the Carthage area.
Right.
It leaves the, it's a pretty broad description, but.
Yeah, so basically to summarize what everyone said, so this is technically city money, it's from the sale of the hospital. It was designated as a public trust to be dedicated to the health and welfare of the Carthage metro community, which we kind of has always defined as what was at that time the McCune Brooks service area. So rather than the council just allocating that money, a board was appointed, and what they are supposed to do is analyze the applications and screen them to see if it fits health and welfare of the Carthage metropolitan community. And then, because it is, at the end of the day, council money, that is why it comes to this body. Is that a fair, Nate, is that a fair explanation?
Yeah, I mean, it initially had six reasons that they existed. 5 of those dealt with paying debt to the hospital, restarting the hospital if that became necessary, if the sale or whatever fell through, because they banked all the money up front and they held it until the hospital was finally sold. I mean, it's a little more detailed than that, but the only one remaining is that the trust can then distribute funds until it's an irrevocable trust, so that can't be taken away. But it's because it's a public funded trust, but it's done. There's only certain provisions you can do with the public trust that it can be spent on, and so that's the health and I can't remember. Is it health and welfare? I know well-being was in there one time. That finally settled on that language. But and the Carthage metropolitan area was supposed to be designed to represent because McCune Brooks served a larger area than just the city. So whatever area that would have been that it served was the idea behind when the trust was being created.
Mr. Snow.
Your Honor, I make a motion that we approve Resolution 18-2, or Resolution 2008, I'm sorry.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to adopt Resolution 2008. Any further discussion, Mr. Hart?
I have one more question, and this is important to me, but I need to ask. My wife, Kara, that everybody knows, is the vice president of this board, and I know that to abstain for financial interest or benefit in some way, there's a benefit to me voting yes, but if I need to abstain, that would be all right. If I voted no, I'd get my head ripped off when I get home. So I just want to know if I can safely vote yes without abstaining.
I don't think that there's anything there that would qualify as a fight.
Good. Get me out of this, Nate.
If you have a personal
Get me out of
interest that sways your vote, if you're only voting yes so you don't get yelled at home, then that would be maybe an interest that you would want to abstain from. But
okay, I didn't say that. I didn't say that. All right.
Mr. Snow.
Based on some of the grants that have been approved through the trust, I believe this beautification of the city, I believe, falls within the guidelines, so that's why I move that we approve this grant.
All right. Mr. Ellett.
Your Honor, if I might, in the application that was presented to the trust under Section 8, where it talks about welfare and healthcare benefit of citizens of Carthage, they stated in the application, public art does not only make a space look alive, it makes us feel alive. Studies have shown expression through art can help people with depression, anxiety, and stress. Art has been linked to improve memory, reasoning, and resilience in aging adults. That was in the application of why they felt that it would qualify under this. So I just pass that on as information.
All right. Anything further? Mr. Armstrong.
So Mr. Snow and I have had the pleasure of voting for or against every single McCune Brooks project that has been brought forward. We have voted for a lot of different things. We voted for parking lot fixtures. We voted for hospital beds. We have voted for buildings. I don't think painting is outside the scope of what has been approved in the past. My personal preference is for things which were promised to the voters during the campaign to sell the hospital, such as walking trails and green spaces and pocket parks. Those are the things which were promised to the community, which McCune Hospital Trust seems to fail to remember the promises they made. And I feel that it is this body's responsibility to hold them accountable to the promises they made when we sold the hospital. And I don't feel that we are doing that and doing a service to the promises that were made to this community about being active and being well by voting for these kinds of projects continually. I would like to see things more in line with what was talked about previous to the actual sale of the hospital.
All right, Ms. Blair.
I would respectfully disagree, Mr. Armstrong. I think this does fall into that category of the things you just listed. It might not be exactly those things, but I think we need to think of a broad bucket for which that would be part of. I wonder, and this would be helpful for me too, those statements I do believe that you just read, I think those are helpful statements. The professor and me would like people to cite their sources so we could use the data to convince people like Mr. Armstrong that there is really beneficial use of it in our community. I would like for those studies to be specifically discussed in future grants. That would be helpful for me too.
Mr. Snow.
I would also like to remind the council that McCune Brooks Trust has given the Parks Department $5 million just recently to improve the playground equipment, the restrooms within our parks. That is, I believe, just the beginning of that parks plan implementation. I believe we will see more programs. But I agree, you and I have voted on computers, we voted on refrigerators. I believe this is a step above those type of grants. So I believe we should support this.
All right, anyone else? Cast your vote. Resolution stands adopted.
I am the no.
All right, closing comments, Ms. Blair.
None tonight, Mr. Mayor.
Ms. Heckman.
Thank you for attending the council meeting. Much appreciated, and we'll see you next time.
Mr. Hardesty.
I'd like to welcome Jen to the family officially. I think you're going to do a wonderful job. And now that I can safely go home, that's all.
Mr. Snow.
Nothing tonight, Your Honor.
Mr. Ellen.
Thank you, Your Honor. Last Sunday in the sermon at our church, and I do listen now and then sometimes, but our pastor had a saying in there that I thought was very appropriate, and I just want to close with that tonight. It says, the best way to know that which is false is to be intimately aware of that which is true. Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you. Ms. Enzer.
Abby, I would just like to congratulate you and tell you you're doing a great job on all the parks. Playgrounds are looking beautiful, and I am not a golfer, but I am really excited about the GPS on the golf carts and about the simulation, so I might have to come out and visit.
You're welcome anytime.
Thank you.
Ms. Blankenship.
Abby, again, I took my grandsons, I have 11 grandchildren, and so I took 3 of my grandboys to Carter Park. It was wonderful. It was shaded, it was quiet, there were so many people in and out of there. It's beautiful. Thank you.
All right. Mr. Armstrong.
Nothing tonight, Your Honor, except a motion to adjourn.
Second. Motion and second to adjourn. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
We're adjourned.